What is up, everybody? Welcome to Fall Pace 2023. How's everybody doing today? Yeah. So we're going to get this thing started with some good old-fashioned Battle for Bikini Bottom. Y'all ready for this? Yeah! Let's go. Let's throw it over to SHiFT.
Everybody, welcome to Pace. Thanks for coming out today. We're going to start out with a classic Battle for Bikini Bottom, any percent. You guys know how it goes. When we select no, the timing starts, so we'll count us down. 3, 2, 1, go. So Battle for Bikini Bottom, a classic 3D platformer from the early 2000s, actually just turned 20 just the last week or so. October 29th, 2003 is when this game was released. Takes a lot of inspiration from some of the greatest platformers that came before it. A lot of PlayStation 2 classics, a lot of Nintendo classics. From what could have been a throwaway licensed game, much like the others at the time, it turned out to be something special. The devs put a lot of care into it, and aside from all the speedrunning stuff, I hope you guys appreciate all the visuals and all the details that these guys put into this game, because we're still appreciating it and loving it to this day. If one of you guys want to take the first trick in the game, the hand disable, you want to explain how this works or what the effects of this are?
All right.
Go right ahead.
So normally that hand there, Hans, is coded into the game in order whenever you go out of bounds, he'll grab you and pull you out and reload the level. And you can find a way to disable it where Hans is programmed to not be able to grab you while he is already grabbing you, so you can't just get stuck in an infinite loop. And so if you can trick the game into thinking that Hans is currently grabbing you, it completely disables him. You can re-enable him, but that's not important really for any percent. So what SHiFT did there was when he jumped on top of the taxi, he loaded it, but the bounce interrupted it. And so the loading zone for traveling to Jellyfish Fields was active. And so when he stood out of bounds and Hans pulled him into the loading zone activated, and now the game thinks Hans is grabbing him.
Yeah, and we can use that to get out of bounds and collect spatulas early, which allows us to warp to them and make a lot of big shortcuts like the one you just saw there earlier.
Right. And so what we're doing right here, as you could just see, but this trick that he just did, this triple jump that he used to get up to that platform, that is actually a frame-perfect triple jump out of a damage boost that he just did. So the thing with this game is that there's a little bit of animation overlap between the damage animation and SpongeBob's natural animations, and there's a single frame of overlap where if you can hit a jump right in that single frame, then you can do a double jump out of the damage boost and it'll send you back up over the ledge like that.
Yep, and this game runs at 60 FPS consistently in most levels, so that is no joke, getting those one-frame jumps. And there are a lot of them throughout this run. You'll be seeing that in a lot of places. There is one exception here where if you slide off a ledge, you get more frames to get that damage boost where you can do a grounded bash or jump out of a slide.
Yeah, speak
such
of
as
the,
here.
Right there.
Speak of the devil.
Yep, so that's an exception where we get more frames to do it, but there's also a reason why we set it up that way instead of just doing, like, even if it were, like, as easy to do, you know, a 3-frame window as opposed to a 1-frame window, we would still want to do it that way because we need the extra height of sliding off the ledge to touch that trigger that skips the Patrick Dilemma fight in the end of Jellyfish Fields. And actually, that's the last time we're going to be touching Jellyfish Fields for the rest of this run. In other speedruns of this game, we tend to go back to Jellyfish Fields to get more collectibles, but that is the last time we'll be seeing it. Now we're going to head into downtown, the gauntlet of multiple frame-perfect tricks to set up a lot of things that are going to be going on for the rest of the game. The first thing we're going to talk about here is these wheels. We're not going to collect all 11 of them, as you can see in the bottom left corner. There are ternary collectibles in each level, or most levels, where there is another thing you can collect to trade to a character that'll give you a golden spatula for it. But in this situation, we're not actually going to collect all 11 of the wheels. We're only going to collect 6 of them, which will be used for a glitch that you see later in the run. So you want to keep your eye on that. You want to keep your eye on the number in the upper right corner as well, because we need to have 3,000 of those shiny objects, the game's currency, before leaving the Krusty Krab to initiate not just one, but 2 major glitches that allow us to get extra spatulas we wouldn't normally be able to do. So this game has a bunch of different paces going on here, not just time, but also collectibles and shiny objects. And sometimes they're also in the bottom right corner of the socks here. If you collect 10 socks, you can trade them to Patrick for another golden spatula. There's also sock pacing as well. And depending on how your shiny object pacing, depending on how these tricks go, you're going to get certain socks and avoid other socks. And there are a lot of decisions being made during this run throughout the course of the any percent playthrough where we got to pick and choose what we're going to get.
Yeah, the first sock that we might not be able to get is coming up here. SHiFT does get the jump, so he'll be able to get it, but if he had missed that jump, we would have had to go for a backup sock later in the route.
And that also allows us to get another wheel here so that we don't have to go and find one somewhere else. This is another frame-perfect trick out of here. It's also coupled with a little bit of RNG from the cannon that makes it a little bit harder to...
Yeah, that trick is absolutely brutal, man. I did manage to get the frame-perfect jump, but unfortunately the frame-perfect jump is not enough to get that strat. Oh, I switched the wrong character. I'm used to the practice sessions where we switch to SpongeBob, but we do need Sandy here because you actually can't attempt that cannon again if you fail it like that and run out of health. So we actually do need to go this way, and we already got the wheel. So
yeah, and Sandy can just glide over because for the casual gameplay, Sandy cheats.
Yeah, so that's a very marathon-friendly backup strat.
Yeah, it's a shame because like the cannon is such a difficult strat with not just the RNG with the cannon and how far it, like when it shoots and how high it shoots and how often it shoots. They have to like time that to like get yourself in the right spot to get launched, and you're going to go in weird directions. But so the one frame jump is a very small part of that whole thing, which sounds funny to say because it's a frame perfect jump, but yeah, a lot has to go right for that cannon to work. It's a very big reset point.
Yeah.
But we made it out.
Another pretty fancy trick coming up here. So you may have noticed how SHiFT got the SpongeBob but didn't turn in a way. He was able to store it until he got to that tiki stack. And so the game perceives SpongeBob as being there when he turns into the ball. And then you can jump out of the ball so you cancel it and then you jump on the frame immediately after and you will get a lot of momentum vertically. And you can also pause that and then jump on the first frame that you load into a new level and the momentum transfers. So right there, SHiFT jumped and got to the spatula on top of the rooftop that normally you have to swing to as Sandy.
Yeah, that's only the first of 2 instances in this run that we'll actually be using that trick. You'll see it a little bit later here whenever we're trying to get to the second part of the hub area.
Yeah, and if you missed what happened earlier with that big jump that went into the sky, that's exactly what was just being explained just now. If you missed it, don't worry, there's another one coming up very soon, so just keep an eye on the screen. There's a lot of stuff happening. It's hard to follow when it's like one spatula every 30 seconds, but you know, you'll be able, if you don't have that much of a knowledge base on the game, you can always still just enjoy the fast-paced platforming if you don't understand what's actually going on. But we'll do our best to explain everything.
Yeah, we get a bit of a cooldown period here with the fight in the lighthouse because other than just small movement optimizations and then that jump there, you're pretty much just doing it the way it's intended. And you can sneak in, grab that wheel.
It's not quite how they intended exactly. I mean, this is much faster than they intended. I mean,
well, it's the same general concept. But yeah, so it gets through there pretty nice and quickly, nice and clean. And that gets us to 10 spatulas.
Yep, and there are actually new areas we can go to with 10 spatulas to unlock, but we're going to save them for later.
As, yeah, we have our next vertical momentum storage. And in this, we go back to the hub world and jump over the invisible wall.
There we go.
And just float gently down to the top of Shady Shoals to get our next spatula.
And see, now what this also does, a little extra thing this does, is this also opens up the second part of the hub world to us, where if we go to the pause menu, we need to warp back to the second part of the menu. Now that is open to us whether we fought the boss or not.
Yeah, because we got on top of Shady Shoals, which normally you'd unlock that for beating the first hub boss, but getting spatula also unlocks it, so now we can just bypass that. for now at least.
It's the same exact thing with this spatula.
Just jumped over with the chum bucket.
Yeah, this building that we're standing on right now is actually the location of the final boss. However, we can't go there yet because we need 75 spatulas to get through the gate. Unlike some games where there are loading zones behind these areas that send you to the final boss, we have to actually have the correct number in the upper middle portion of the screen where the spatula count shows up. So when that says 75, we're able to go through. So yes, we can skip straight to the end of the hub world, but it's not enough to skip to the end of the game, which is pretty surprising at this point for how much this game has been through, that we still haven't figured that out. But that's what makes this game so cool, is that it's gone from over an hour to almost 40 minutes, and we still have to get 77 spatulas throughout the whole game.
And what we have here is going to be, this is going to be a movement section of two back-to-back one-frame jumps over the void of the dream level.
Yep, this is Forbidden Skip, one of the many variations of it. The hardest and fastest. And then it just so happens that doing this format of Forbidden Skip lets you get the cycle lined up with the slick bot up there to go for another frame perfect trick to cross this gap like
Nice.
so. There is another variation of it where you slide off the edge like we did in Jellyfish Fields and do the bash, but not as fast. So that's always getting that one's a lot nicer.
And the other really cool thing about having done all these tricks now is that normally, if you play the game casually, you would have to go through and buy a bunch of toll clams to be able to access all these different dreams. But because we've done these exploits to get to all these different levels, now it costs absolutely nothing.
Yep.
And which is very important because now we have all these shiny objects in the upper right corner. Pay attention because this is a very crucial part of the run. If we mess this up, the whole route has to be changed. So,
Yeah, so if you're paying
keep an eye on
attention...
that number, and we got
we're
3,000.
over
All right, we're good.
3,000.
So there are a couple of things happening here. We're going to actually overlap both spatula buys. So we just got 2 spatulas, and the counter's not going to update until we load the level. If you watch the middle of the screen, 17 goes to 18. Now, this is a very complicated part of the run that I'm going to do my best to explain while also playing the game. But by avoiding Mr. Krabs in the beginning of the game, you probably noticed if you're a speedrun connoisseur that we actually did some pretty unoptimized movement at the beginning of this run to get on top of Squidward's house by taking a big wide turn around Mr. Krabs, but that is actually by design. It's by design of the route to avoid Mr. Krabs that early, to avoid activating his spatula trade challenges until later into the run. You see, with Mr. Krabs, he can trade you up to 8 spatulas from shiny objects, each increasing in price, which we have money generation exploit, spoiler alert, that doesn't make that a problem. But what becomes an issue after that is that we've actually figured out how to duplicate the first spatula and buy the first spatula in the series more than once. So in the beginning of the game, what you just saw there, we bought the first spatula from Mr. Krabs outside the Krusty Krab. But because it was the first time that we talked to him there, we're actually able to set up a sequence where later in the run, what we just did, we talked to Mr. Krabs again. We reactivated the set of challenges so that way we can, the conditional statements for buying the first spatula and the second spatula are both open currently. So just to summarize that a little bit, in simple terms, by purchasing the first spatula outside of the first area where we're supposed to, we've actually opened up the game to buying the second spatula later. And the first spatula has just been opened up again by talking to Mr. Krabs, and now by doing this boss fight, puts us into the second phase of the game, the second game state in the hub world that opens up the spatula mission to be bought again. So right now, the current state of the game is that we were able to buy the first spatula and that we're able to buy the second spatula as well. So keep that in mind going forward. You'll understand how that goes into play later. But the goal of this is to be able to buy 10 spatulas from Mr. Krabs instead of the usual 8 that we were only limited to in the base game. Now, they're actually up to 16 spatulas theoretically that can be bought from Mr. Krabs, but they get increasingly slower as they go along. So there are a lot of glitches, a lot of things going on under the hood. And it's okay if you don't follow along because this game is very complicated, but what's nice about this game is that it also has like very pleasing visuals, and platforming in particular is very long compared to the plethora of 30-second spatulas that we've gone through for the entirety of the beginning of the game. And you might be thinking, isn't there a way to skip this? And well, yeah, there is. You saw us do it when we jumped on top of the building and skipped the whole boss fight. And there's actually another way to clip under the stage to get the spatula for this boss fight as well, without actually fighting through the whole thing. But the reason why we have to finish this boss fight is extremely important, because the final cutscene in this boss fight activates a power-up that is referred to as the Bubble Bowl. That's crucial. The Bubble Bowl and the Cruise Bubble are the two power-ups you get for beating the main bosses in the game. And these power-ups are crucial for completing the game as fast as possible, because they enable other glitches, exploits, and skips that we will be abusing later to get through the game. Despite taking more time to sacrifice here by doing these boss fights, it allows the rest of the run to be faster due to that sacrifice, because the rest of the gameplay speeds up the rest of the run so much. And the first example you'll see of that in Xanadu Lagoon, the 10 spatula gate I referred to earlier, which we can now go to. And we're going to do one of the biggest and, in the past, most controversial exploit ever found in this game.
Yeah, this was definitely not the most popular when it first came out. It split the leaderboards into 2 different sections at one point, I believe.
Yeah, and then we warmed up to it eventually, and so the category for banning this trick is just completely gone now.
Yeah, a lot of old strategies and old routes and old... And a big reason why like SBA was not liked at first is because of what it did to the route, but as time went on, we found more fast ways of integrating SBA into the route, and the trick itself got a lot faster and better. So people kind of just warmed up to it, like you said.
All right, so SHiFT is getting stuck. You can interrupt the animation of the stomp and get SpongeBob stuck in it, and then any momentum you had, such as a damage boost like here, you will glide until you hit a solid surface that the stomp connects with and ends the attack. So you can just float across different parts of the stage, and you can hit that robot and destroy it and do the connect the towers spatula without actually touching any of the buttons on the towers.
Yes, and the other lesser shown exploit of this is that you can also use this to go all the way to the end of the level and do the entire level in reverse order. So it completely negates the need to go through and do everything the way that the devs originally intended it.
So this is another example of a level where we just go in the complete opposite order and do things all in weird sequences. It's a very open game when you got a lot of platforming exploits and knowledge of the various glitches that we can use to get through it.
All right, and so we're coming up to skee ball abuse. So that tiki is going to be used to basically rip off the skee ball machine that is here. It gives you shiny objects. Depending on which hole you get the ball into, it's 10, 30, 40, 50, etc. And so SHiFT is going to line up very carefully to aim this tiki for the 30 hole, and looks like he got it, although he has a much better eye for it than I do.
For those headphone users in the audience, get ready. It's going to be loud.
Oh, yeah, no, your ears are going to
Crank it up! So while this may just seem like a lot of clutter and noise, there actually is a lot going on here. Because the upmost right number of the shiny objects, okay, well, that was, well, it's very temperamental, as we've implied.
See,
but
that'll happen.
What we want to keep an eye on the idea here is that we want to keep it going is while we're doing all of these tasks and have it go at a certain pace. So that way we end up in a range between 2 numbers. You want to be somewhere around the 44.4 thousand range. So we undershot it by quite a bit by that thing falling out there. But what we usually do is eyeball the number in the center of the screen to see how fast it's flashing. And from that, we will be able to figure out how many shiny objects we have just based on intuition. From doing this enough times, you can see the rate of the flashing to... There we go. Okay. So that's going to give us... It's going to go in and out once every other frame, which is going to give us quite a bit of shiny objects. But we got to be careful, though, because in the past this didn't matter, but now it does matter how many shiny objects we actually get from this. If we get too many, we can't do a glitch later, so we have to keep an eye on that. Be very careful. Normally at this point in an actual run, I would just reset. So it's unusual that I have to actually babysit it like this. So we'll see how I do, if I can actually get the right number. The main goal here is to get out of here without losing too much time, or rather getting over too many shiny objects, so I can't show you guys the rest of the route that I want to show you.
Yeah, and so there is a setup for it that gets you the ball in and keeps it in place a lot more consistently, but it requires 2 tikis, so it actually takes about 30 seconds longer to set up. So pretty much SHiFT is the only one of the runners who does 1 tiki, but
Yeah, you really don't need to switch to
Yeah,
a
you
1
don't
tiki
need it.
setup until you get to about like sub 50-minute times or more.
all right,
There we
SHiFT jumped before he hit that tiki so that he could get the momentum to jump through the spatula and skip the animation by drowning.
And then now we're going to go back over here as Patrick, and we're going to continue doing the level in reverse order like we were talking about earlier.
So as you saw earlier, SHiFT cleared out the bumper boats while he was passing by, and that is the second part of Mr. Krabs' mission for you here. Now you're going to do the first, where you destroy the robot in the ticket booth, and well, would have been better if you didn't destroy the ticket booth too. But as Mr. Krabs says, I believe he says that he has it covered by insurance.
Yeah, it's covered by his insurance. And then now we're going to be going back through the jellyfish caves. And as you can see, spatula's right there for us to take, so we don't have to go through all the platforming and everything.
And you can just then warp right to the beginning of the cave and then move on to the top of the sandcastle.
Now this next bit over here, after he grabs the spatula at the top of the castle here, this next bit here is going to be, so there is a button on the other side of this wall over here that, you know, it's invisible, but we all know about it. Just trust us. So he's going to use the bubble bowl here to bowl a ball over the wall there and hit the button on the other side. And what he's going to do is that's going to allow him to run over here and collect the spatula on the other side of the challenge without having to go over there.
Normally, you would play as Patrick and throw a watermelon at the button after paying a clam for it, and then slowly jump around the moat.
Yeah, and that routing decision there are some times, depending on your shiny count, where you want to go left or right. If you go to the left, you avoid the big stack of tikis on top of the castle with the sock, which the reason why you would do that is if you have too many shiny objects to activate that glitch later I've been alluding to with the Mr. Krabs exploit. We need to make sure that we have in a range. And depending on the number that you have, you're going to be doing different routing decisions. So in some cases, you actually wouldn't go on top of the sandcastle and get that sock there, because the damage boost that makes the sock fast also requires you to touch those tikis to get the boost off of them.
Yep, and so 2 damage boosts, one with a 1-frame jump there. That
Nice.
SHiFT successfully gets, saves just like a second or two.
Yeah, there's constant 1-frame jumps throughout this run there.
Yeah, and so there, SHiFT pressed the trigger to load the zone there before landing on the spatula, but he touched it before it loaded the zone, so he skips the animation. Another damage boost, this one's classic. Gets you over to the pipe here that normally you would need to fly over as Sandy.
Yeah, there's a lot of big stuff happening in this game right now, but once we get out of Tridium, well, I'll tell you as well to look for this as well. There's going to be another one of those spatula cancels where we can avoid watching the spatula animation, so look for that at the end of this. Ooh, that's actually really helpful. That's going to help with the shiny pacing a lot. But yeah, the route's going to differ like almost every time with this, depending on how many shinies you get. You got to figure out your backups and how to get the right number, and it'll make more sense soon, trust me.
Yep, and here it is by activating the trigger and then getting the spatula fast enough. Very tight window. I've never managed to do it.
Please.
So that's bubble.
You got it. Nice.
Got it.
Okay.
Phew.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, text storage there. If you hit a NPC at the same frame you talk to them, you can store the text, and then you can use that to kind of glitch out Mr. Krabs, but it can crash the game, so very good we got through with that.
Yeah, and that'll allow us to do the glitch in the later part of this game as well. So everything's going according to plan.
Now,
really
normally
try
you
to
need a
get this-
bungee hook for this, but since we have the hand disabled, you can just jump down there, grab the spatula, and then warp out.
All right, so earlier you may have caught that Mr. Krabs was waving his hand without stopping because he was locked in the middle of his talking animation. One reason why we do this is because we can overlap the spatulas here. But another reason why we do it is because by interrupting Mr. Krabs with Bubble Buddy's text, so that's a frame perfect text storage. If you talk to Bubble Buddy on the same frame that the Bubble Wand touches him, you can interrupt another character if the text box lands during one where it's not going to crash the game, because there are some text boxes where the earlier Mr. Krabs boxes specifically crash the game. But we want to like have it on the right text box where it cancels his animation, where he's giving us the spatula, and allows us to lock him into that talking animation so it never fully ends. So because we pretty much soft lock Mr. Krabs' first mission, it allows us to buy it again later because it technically wasn't completed. And normally what this would do would soft lock the game because you locked him on the first mission. The second one didn't get open yet, so you can't buy it. So I was like, oh, okay, we can't buy the rest of the spatulas now. But because we did the duplication at the beginning of the game,
Looks like SpongeBob.
where well, remember when I said earlier when we left the Poseidon that we had the first one buyable and the second one buyable? They're both greenlit. So even though the first one got left open and the second one didn't get open yet because we interrupted him in the middle of his dialogue, the second one is still left open from the beginning of the game where we glitched him earlier. So this is just another example of how one glitch in the game leads to another, and then it builds a whole route onto itself. So what this allows us to do is buy another spatula at the end of the game before Graveyard. But the only way you can do this is if your shiny count in the upper right corner is below 3,000 before talking to Mr. Krabs once we get to the later part of the game. We have to have below 3,000 shiny objects before talking to Mr. Krabs the next time, or when he's in range. So when you see Mr. Krabs' talking text box later before Kelp Forest, that's when we're going to be activating this next spatula. So once he's seen that we have under 3,000, we can come back later with over 3,000 to buy the spatula for 3,000 shiny objects. So that glitch that we did at the very beginning of the game, all the shiny object we were collecting in downtown, all the hub opening to get Mr. Krabs outside the Krusty Krab when he was not supposed to be there, to buy the duplication spatula early. Like all of these intricate routing decisions have led up to the point where we're able to glitch Mr. Krabs before entering this fight, allowing us to buy all 8 spatulas that were intended to buy, while still leaving the first one open for later to buy again. So that allows us to buy 10 spatulas when only 8 of them are attended. And this leaves big implications on the run. Because there are multiple levels where many spatulas are attached, like the Murmler, for example, where a few years ago, at the start of the pandemic, when VMS started to become integrated into these runs, we were able to remove one of the slower spatulas from the Murmler. And once that was removed, we were able to say, okay, well, now that this spatula is gone, we can actually do the whole level of SpongeBob now because Patrick's spatulas are out of Murmler, and we can just cruise boost the whole thing. So then we move all of Murmler to the late part of the game, and downtown gets moved to the beginning, so we could have enough spatulas to unlock this boss fight, and it goes on and on. Every little thing that changed in the game moves a lot of stuff around and changes a lot of the routing possibilities, which is why this game still isn't optimized after being viciously grinded for the past 7 or 8 years straight. We still keep finding new things. This year actually alone has been the biggest year for time save in any percent at the top level since before the pandemic. We're still finding massive strats. We're still improving the game quite a bit. And it really feels like a never-ending SpongeBob roller coaster.
Yeah, just when you think the well's starting to dry up, all of a sudden you find some crazy new thing that adds like at least 10 seconds of time save.
And so what you're going to be seeing here, this phase 3 of the boss fight here, unlike the one before it, is actually not as free as you'd think. So there's a little bit of manipulation that has to go into effect here because with how random his spins can be, he can just end up anywhere. So we're going to be lining up in specific spots in the corners of the stage here to try to get RoboPatrick to land either on the sides of the map or over by the stage area so that he doesn't end up in the back. It makes it a lot easier for us to be able to predict where he's going to land and make it easier for us to get there and hit him in a quicker fashion.
Yep, see, lands in
Awkward
front.
spot.
The robot's made himself dizzy. The robot better change tactics.
So this is one of those spots in the run where it's starting to really get intense.
Make or break as well in an actual record attempt. This is a big deciding factor that allows you to either really hone in for the rest of the 14 minutes or just go home. This is a very volatile part of the run. Also, that was pretty lucky.
There we go.
All right, and now we have the cruise bubble.
Now everybody knows what's coming next, right?
Let me just mention first that because we overshot the shiny object SBA, we got a really weird number. We have to actually buy a clam here to send the shiny pacing down back to get us on track for having the 3,000 later.
Nice. Nice.
All right,
Okay.
that's not fast enough. To get that, you actually have to cancel way faster, but we can actually stall here to make the slower cycle just to make sure it actually works.
Okay, so he's going to be collecting the sock here and jumping on his trampoline.
So yeah, cruise boosting.
Yeah.
A lot has happened so far,
Yeah.
but if you guys want to take the wheel on that, just give me some time to focus on fast enough when we get to it. You got like 20 seconds.
Okay, press bubble ball and cruise bubble. Same frame, sponge move fast there.
Yeah.
Yep, the bubble bowl momentum gets locked into your movement speed, so does the turning, so you turn slower and you run faster,
Yep. You
which
like
opens
one
up
frames.
possibilities, but it makes your movement very much more risky because you can't turn around, unlike the movement for the earlier parts of the game.
All right, let's see here. There we go.
And
Nice.
he got it.
There we go.
It's a sports goal!
We used to have to get stuck in a sponge glide, and so I didn't really mention the cruise bubble part of it, but so there are two things you can do to move during a sponge glide, and that's damage boost, or with the cruise bubble, SpongeBob will move forward constantly, so you can turn around and aim him. So we used to do that to get to the nut, but we then found that you can bash off of the slide. It's a really tricky one-frame input.
Very
and-
bad visual cue, mostly based on muscle memory. And you got to hold that muscle memory the entire game to reach that point and get it first try. Otherwise, you lose your run, basically. It loses too much time.
Yeah. This is another instance here of he's going to get a really fast cruise boost.
Nice first try.
Nice
That's
first
actually
try.
incredible. That's really hard. So
So what you just saw just there is that whenever he moved forward and the shush tikis shrank down and the stone tiki on top of them fell down onto his head, there was some displacement that took place whenever the stone tiki pushed him out from underneath it. And so if you can time a cruise boost input in that one frame window of
Let's go!
displacement, then you could get a cruise boost as fast as that.
yeah, you can start moving so fast that you just start clipping through walls.
Sorry to interrupt, but that was pretty hype. That's a very difficult strat to pull off, especially in a marathon setting. You have to get a very specific speed on an exact frame with an exact set of. 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is another one of those. This is a ledge cruise boost done at an angle. Makes it even tougher to do.
Yep.
There we
So
go.
cruise boost as you slide off the
It's
ledge.
a little bit slow.
Yeah,
We'll take care of it. But yeah.
So yeah, cruise boost as you slide off the ledge, and you'll get the speed of SpongeBob kind of just teleporting down off of the ledge, and so they're usually not as fast as like having a tiki fall down on you, but you can get some pretty good speed going out of it.
We're going to do a backup here.
Yeah, I know you're hearing us say one frame a lot. Not to say that this is one frame the game necessarily, but if you took a drink for every time that we said one
Oh,
frame.
shit!
Oh,
Okay, maybe I can recover this. I don't think I can, though. I think
boy.
it's over.
But yeah,
Yeah, we're going back down. Yeah, it's rough. That's one of those things that never, like, I've never, like, have to, like, actually do that in a run. Just, 1 second.
let's see. But yeah, not to say that this is one frame the game necessarily, but there are quite a lot of one frames in here. If you were to,
All right, that's much better.
If you were to take a
we actually
drink.
get to show off the main strat and the backup.
oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's one of those things that, like, you just reset if you get that slow speed, so typically don't have to back it up like that.
all right.
But the earlier cruise boost that you saw on the first, because I was trying to gather my thoughts and, like, explain it, we now have tech where we can actually go way faster than we used to be able to, which allows, see now we can actually get over because we have enough speed. Be careful there. We now have tech that allows us to uncap the cruise boost speed from the upper bound of just barely under the 30s in the 28 range to now being able to go over 30 to any, I went to the wrong level, being able to go to any value, depending on how fast you can move. And with that specific Larry cruise boost that we did earlier and the Larry slide, we have to actually have within a very small range that allows us to just barely clip into the gates that you saw, while also not getting stuck on the outside of it. So you have to get stuck in, you have to have enough speed to clip into the gate once and get stuck inside of it and not go through it, and then re-angle it to get into the box. And then you're just basically just praying at that point, hoping that he clips through the box and doubles that spatula. So I'm very happy with that actually occurring in a run. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, the thing is with a lot of these cruise boost speeds, as you saw earlier with the big mess that happened earlier on Sand Mountain with getting the slow speed and having to back it up, that is very common with this game, where you get a bad speed just from like not setting it to the exact perfect angle and degree to get the right amount of speed. So seconds count in a world record attempt, so you can only imagine how stressful that is.
So now we're in the Merma layer. This is actually a much more platforming heavy level than the Sand Mountain one. So what you're going to see here is he's going to head up here with the bash jump. And this is actually going to allow us to skip another toll clam that we would normally have to use to get up to this part of the level.
Yeah, the thing about that bash there is that by turning the camera, it actually lags the game, so you get more height out of your bash. So it's a little weird to time, and it's a little tiny bit inconsistent, but sometimes doesn't work. But
And here's one of the mini bosses of the game. Prawn, he is Mermaid Man's arch nemesis. He's a very tough opponent. Shoots lasers at you, and there we go, fight's over.
Yep.
Okay, so what actually happened there is most of the so yeah, the mini bosses in this, two of the mini bosses, Prawn and Flying Dutchman, and the final boss have a debug trigger left over from the development stage of the game, where if SpongeBob makes contact with it, then boss fight just ends, triggers the cutscene, gives you the spatula. So that one, and we used to do the Dutchman one, but we have made that obsolete. It's too slow. And so we still do it for the final boss. Just quick, easy spatula.
Yeah, it wasn't even known for a while that that debug trigger even existed. We weren't able to always go out of bounds to find it like that. Sometime around, 2016, that somebody found a glitch that would allow us to be able to get out of bounds like that and find it.
All right, and then here's the ballroom clip. So you get yourself kind of stuck, wedged in there, and then you do an elbow, which is the same input as a cruise boost, but it's while you're on in like a sloped angle, and you have intangibility on the one frame where you bowl in, so clip right into there.
And
here we go, the double.
Yep.
All right, this is the part of the run where we got to talk to Mr. Krabs. We're getting his range to activate the finals purchase. As you see, we have under 3,000 shiny objects, so it should work later as long as we have enough to buy it. But we're actually going to reuse this tech that you saw earlier in Sand Mountain with the UCB, the uncapped cruise boost, where we can use a jump and a spin to uncap the momentum.
All right, we're going to have another very quick cruise boost here. This will be another spot in the run.
There we go.
There we go.
Another spot in the run where everybody be waiting with bated breath to see if it would
And
work.
we're actually going to do a spatula cancel here as well. If we jump on the first frame, we get out of the death animation, or the death fade out. We can carry the spatula to the next level, and as you can see, we have it stored right now. It's going to start up when this goes off, and now we don't have to watch it.
There we go.
And so while walking through that area, SHiFT did activate Mrs. Puff. We are going to get a spatula from her later using a fun trick, the thing we collected the wheels in downtown for.
Yeah. And you'll notice also that this is another one of those levels that we can do in reverse order. So normally what we'd have to do is do a time challenge with Mermaid Man on that vine slide that is arguably one of the hardest time challenges in the game to complete. But now, since we've already gotten to the bottom, activated the teleport box at the bottom, we can just go right back to the bottom and finish the time challenge and come back to get the spatula from Mermaid Man.
I love how that is one of the few things in this game that's trivialized by speedrun strats. Like, most of this stuff just gets way, way harder and way more complicated, but that's the kind of thing that, even though not everybody's doing it the exact same way that we're doing it here, a lot of people, like everybody who runs the game, does this Kelp Forest skip where you just do the whole thing reverse and don't go down the slide.
Yeah.
Makes it almost feel like a
basic-
normal speed run for a second, right?
Yeah, the basic structure of Kelp Forest, where you go through it backwards, has been the same years, pretty much the whole game's history as a speedrun.
Early
That
on.
was a little weird. A lot of bloom going on there. It's always interesting playing on different monitors where the colors are different. All right, well, we're just going to...
Well,
Yeah, that was a little weird. Usually I have like a setup where I run off, and it's all good.
It's all good, man.
so yeah, here we load into downtown, get the 6 wheels, and then go to rock bottom, and the tertiary collectible with the wheels, it will take a frame for the memory to clear and get to the amount you have in the next level. So if you if you use the cruise bubble while in range of the NPC who gives you the spatula for collecting enough of them, then it will keep the game freezes the memory, and it will keep the amount that you have of the first collectible, in this case the wheels. So with 6, we show up in rock bottom, it thinks we have all 6 art pieces, and so Mrs. Puff gives you the spatula.
Yep.
And,
So that's the reason why we collect those wheels. And we can do it again later with a different spatula as well, so that's a big reason. Okay.
and
It
now,
goes a frame late on that.
and now we're going to head into Museum. And for those of you that know this game casually, you'll be wondering, how do we get through all these laser walls and everything? Well, there's a little trick where if you're stuck in a ledge grab animation for either SpongeBob or any character, you can phase through these walls while you're in that ledge grab animation. So as you're going to see right here, he's going to grab the wheel there, and as he's in that animation, he phases through the laser wall like that and allows him to get to the second part of the museum here.
We also need to get these shiny objects here to have us over the 3,000 mark, which will set us up for the spatula purchase before Graveyard.
And just quick duck under there with the cruise boost, and get the spatula invincibility to not take damage from the laser wall, and jump up there, grab the sock.
And we're going to set up another one of these collectible counter
Yep.
uses.
And then this is the
There we
when
go.
talked to Puff earlier.
Yep, same concept. 6 campers are required, 6 artwork are required, so we have 6 wheels. We can transfer the memory value to the same slot by pressing L on the first frame.
So that's
And there goes the final spatula purchase from Mr. Krabs. We get over 3,000, so that gives us our 10th spatula and the second unintentional spatula. So now that we've finished that off, no more worrying about shiny objects, no more worrying about wheels, no more worrying about everything
Instead-
except for one of the most difficult tricks in the entire game.
Instead, we get the hardest area.
We're going to crank this thing into maximum overdrive, baby. Nice, first try.
Another incredible first try DCB. And moving so fast, you just clip through the walls. You can go underneath the lake of goo here and jump on clip into the cage without having to do any of the normal things you do to get in there. But
Oh,
we're
no.
not done. Oh, we are done. Never mind.
Okay, that's fine. That's all good.
That's okay.
That was a little bit of a weird. Yeah, there's a lot of winding trails down there. Yeah, so this is frame perfect and angle perfect. It's very, very difficult. So hopefully I get it within a reasonable amount of tries. Fallen.
Yeah, it's completely revolutionized the way that we play this early part of the Dutchman, though. Originally used to be
It's gonna be a
There
little bit
we go.
slow.
we'd get a cruise boost off of that pole there right by the entrance, and we'd also grab the sock that is up on one of the platforms over there as well.
Yep. And there's another spatula hidden under the goo here on the shipwreck.
I'm a little concerned about the speed, because as you can see, there's a big speed variance here, but might be able to make this work.
Oh.
Ooh,
All right.
all right. Made it work. Made it work.
We're not out yet.
And so, yeah, you can basically just
Am I dead? Yeah, I'm dead.
You can pretty much just
it's a
fly
mess.
across this level.
Big mess. We're going to have to get it a third time in the same run. All right, well, that's that's 3 of them in the same run, so I hope you got your fill of it.
Yeah. This is another instance similar to, remember early in the run whenever we got the spatula at the bottom of that waterfall in Jellyfish Fields? This is the same idea right here. The hand would usually come out of and grab us before we were able to jump down there, so now we can grab that spatula and head up to the other part of the level.
Yep, skip a giant sandy platforming section.
You can jump up on the outside of this tanker here using cruise boosting, get to the spatula without having to do all these wall jumps and everything. It's really crazy to try to play that casually. And then we're going to get up here, and this is the main part of the Dutchman level, the ship battle area, where you have to go through and you have to hit the buttons of the 4 cannons to get them all pointed towards the robot ship. And then you can, the idea is that you can set them all off all together, but we're not going to be doing that because that's not very fast for the run.
Yeah. And so so it opens up this chest here. That's how you unlock the Dutchman fight. We're not going to do it though. But previously we would hit that button and then even though it technically isn't supposed to yet, it would unlock the Dutchman fight. Instead, we're just going to grab the spatula and move on to give 10 socks to Patrick.
Yep, we're ready to finish the game. The final spatula is actually inside the chum bucket, and we're going to do a little trick where we unlock the final gate and finish watching the spatula animation at the same time. So it's coming up. Just very, very optimized game, man. So we barely touch it just as it hits 75. Lets us through. And the text storage allows us to enter from this part of the kitchen.
And
Here we go. Give them a quick 1-2.
Looks like SpongeBob may have a moment
And
to
then,
act
as I
here.
mentioned earlier, the debug trigger, conveniently, you can just get launched up into it, even though there's nothing for you to climb.
Will
Yep,
SpongeBob
and then
be
for
able
this
to
last little
surprise
bit,
the
there's
giant robot
supposed to
brain?
be a lot of little platforms and stuff you're supposed to defeat a bunch of robots for, but why would we do that when we can just go straight to the source and take out the fuses in the brain?
Yep. Now, this is actually one of the few areas in the game where you can just really soft lock and ruin everything. And it sucks that it's the very end. I believe SHiFT actually lost a run to it pretty recently.
Yep,
There we go, it
the
works.
5-second PB.
Coming up on time.
And
Time.
Time.
Nice job.
When it rains, it pours, man. But there were a lot of really good first tries in this run. Very good showcase. A lot of great commentary. Thank you, everybody, for coming out to Pace. What a great kickoff to an awesome event.
Always a pleasure to be
Right?
here.
Yeah.
Very fun to kick it off for you guys, and I'm sure the rest of the runs that you're going to be seeing are all also going to be great.
And remember, y'all, if you have a speed run that you want to show, just like I did here, you can submit to Pace in spring and fall. There are 2 events per year, and we're looking for more runners. We want more people to come out. So let's fill up those attendee spots, fill out those runs, make it a big showcase of all the best speed runs. So submit to Pace, submit runs. That's all I got to say, and thank you, everybody. Also, I guess if you're interested in learning more about this game and how to speed run it, you can always check out the world record progression videos on this game, the history videos on YouTube, or the explanation videos for the world record. If you got any questions about it, you can always join my Discord server, discord.gg/SHiFT, or watch me live on twitch.tv/SHiFT as well. You know where I'm at. You know where the game's at. And yeah, it's a pretty complicated run, but I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you were able to understand some of it. We had to jump over a lot of different explanations to explain the main stuff, but there are a lot of very small things, and if you're appreciative of small details in games, this is going to be an awesome one for you in the future if you get into it. So happy to stream it for you, and good luck to the rest of the runners. Thank you. Thanks for having us.